Good morning. So what are we doing this morning? Well, what we're going to do this morning is what we've done most mornings. We'll start with a solar eclipse because the sun is beaming absolute light down from it. Now, as you're looking at this, stick bouncing onto a mirror. We've got the sun bouncing onto a mirror, right? And we know that shadow is hitting us, right? We are in the sweet spot of the moon's shadow, but it's a stick, okay? Now, if there were photons involved, how come they've turned a corner and are on that mirror? Why are we seeing photons, the shadow being cast by photons that have been traveling allegedly for 8 minutes and 20 seconds? See those photons? They're just trying to crawl around, wrap themselves around the stick, aren't they? Those photons that are trying to wrap themselves around the stick have been traveling for 8 minutes and 20 seconds at 299,792 kilometers per second to get here, to do what they're doing right there. If that is the case, what are they doing in the mirror at the same time as the actual light source that radiated those photons that are trying to wrap themselves around the stick right now? Why is the light source that radiated the photons 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago in the same picture? Why is it still there? Why are we seeing both the photons that have traveled for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, as well as the light source that radiated those photons 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago? I tell you why we're seeing both of them at the same time, because they are one and the same. You cannot separate the light that is radiating from a light source from the light source itself. The light source goes out, so does the light that it was radiating. Slam dunk. Now, there's the shadow, and we were right in it and face the other way. So we know for a fact that everything is lined up perfectly. You know that by now. We all know that by now. Now, what doesn't make sense is in the 16 and 1700s, with the tales and the reports of all of these intelligent scientists, that none of them could work out that the light radiating from the sun is absolute. And it is absolute. So again, unless a logical answer comes up for how a solar eclipse can work, look, I'm not even going to say it anymore. This is absolute light. There is no delay. This is bouncing off of three mirrors. Three mirrors. That one is going over to that one. Right? And that one is getting its light from this one. So this is the first bounce. There's the sun up in the sky. So that is now behind me. Right. That is absolute light. There is no delay. There are no photons involved. What we're looking at is the light source itself, not photons. How is it possible that so many scientists back in the day missed this? And don't think that I'm making a mistake, because this is very, very basic stuff. If there was a delay, you would not be seeing the light source that launched the photons at the same time. It's like a baseball player throwing a ball, a pitcher, throwing the ball and he's holding it, he's throwing it, the ball goes, the batter hits the ball with the bat, but the pitcher is still holding onto the ball. That's what we have here. We're seeing the light source that radiated the photons 8 minutes and 20 seconds earlier at the very same time as seeing the result of the photons on the back of the stick. How are we seeing both of them at the same time? This is not rocket science, people. This is far from rocket science. That right there is absolute light with no delay. You are seeing the light source as well as the light that it radiated, but all in real time with no delay. How on earth did so many people who were so intelligent, I say so intelligent, I say that with a pinch of salt, because there are, look, I know what we can do. Don't worry about the sweet potato and breadcrumbs and stuff like that. Something else. Let me get this board down. I haven't had this board down in fact that's going to be a bit of a problem now because of that bookcase. One can forget about. This might not happen because of that bookcase. Just slide down. Seen better days. Alright. I could go and take that absolute light away from the situation, couldn't I? So, the claims. The claims. The claims are Olaus Roma, born in 1644, died in 1710. And in 1676, he used Io, and when we moved further and further away from Jupiter and Io in our orbit around the Sun, it is said that Roma detected a light delay because as we were moving further and further away from Jupiter, it seemed like Io took longer, or it came out later, and it was put down to a light delay. The further we got away from Jupiter in our orbit around the Sun, the longer it took for the light from the Sun to hit Io and bounce into the telescope of Olaus Roma. How would that be possible? We've seen the solar eclipse enough times using a stick, and you've seen it for real. There is no delay. How is it possible that Galileo Galilei, born in 1546 and died in 1642, how is it possible that in 1610, that was one of the dates when he did one of his things, how is it possible that he was that naive that he actually, there it is, second one down, 1546, 1610, how is it possible that he felt the need to grab one of his assistants with lanterns at night time and say to the assistant, you go up that hill and I'm going to go up that hill, and somehow I'll signal you at night. How? 16:10. I'll signal you, and then you open your lantern or close your lantern, and I'll see if I can time. Do you really think that anybody is that stupid that they wouldn't know with a lantern? How did they do it? Two of you get on opposing hilltops about 1 kilometre apart and tell me how you go. How would you tell the other person? Right, I'm doing it now. There was nothing, no electronic, what was a piece of string 2 kilometres long at night, and when you feel me pull the string, dink, you open your lantern, and then I'll try and see how. That is how naive he was. But the thing is, how naive are the people believing these stories, right? It's insane, it's ridiculous, it's an insult to people's intelligence. And this is another problem. Somebody said to me, was it yesterday? One of the chats. These are things that you can do. These are tests that you can do yourself to prove the speed of light. Bollocks. No, it isn't. And until you people realize that all of the people telling you these things, they're just making you presume that they're true, but they aren't. I have looked at Io and Jupiter 4-5 times over the last couple of years, thinking, putting myself in the first person, there is no way. How on earth? No clocks, no light, no nothing, no timekeeping devices. There I am with a 1700s telescope, right? The telescope was Hans Slippershy in 1608, it is said. In 1676, just over 70 years later, he's using a telescope and he's spotting Io coming out from Jupiter late. It's ridiculous. How is it possible that today, look, a few months ago, the last time I did it, looked up at Jupiter and Io, I saw Europa, Ganymede and Callisto. You could see them all there. How on earth? If I was to do what they did back in the day, even with the good telescope that I have, I look up and I just see Io come out. There it is. What time do I put? What time do I put? I've got no timekeeping devices, nothing. So what time do I write down in 1676, when I'm looking up at Io and Jupiter, and Io's just come out from behind. Now, what time do I write down? With what? In the dark. And then 6 months later, when I'm the other side of the sun, but can still see Jupiter and Io, when I put my telescope out and get it ready, and I'm pretty sure Io's going to come out pretty soon, and when it comes out, there it is. What time did I do it back 6 months ago? How do I look? These things are so pathetically stupid. It is just an indication of where people's common sense has gone since these absurdities have been aired in public. Now, I could go on about this all day long. It's come out to 14 minutes. I'm going to call it this to keep in the 15-minute bracket. Listen, it does not matter what anybody says. It really doesn't. It's not hard to work out. Why on earth are people not asking their teachers how a solar eclipse works with finite light? And why is it that the light source, the sun, is directly behind the shadow of anything that's using its sun to cast that shadow? Ask those questions and see if you can get a logical answer, because I know there isn't one. There is no such thing as a photon. The lies are obvious. This is what happens when you get to the children early. All right, later peeps.